The sky above Earth was filled with fire as the alien fleet pierced the atmosphere, their massive warships looming like dark sentinels over the continents below. It had begun. The invasion that had been feared for decades was now a cold reality. Earth's united military forces, forged after years of preparation, had been activated in a final, desperate attempt to repel the invaders. Colonel Marcus Steele, a hardened veteran of countless conflicts, stood on the command deck of the UES Valor, the flagship of Earth's defense fleet. He gazed through the viewports at the approaching enemy ships, his jaw clenched tightly as the alarms rang through the ship. "All stations, prepare for engagement," he ordered, his voice calm despite the chaos. Around him, his officers scrambled into action, preparing for the most critical battle in human history. On the ground, the cities had been fortified, bunkers reinforced, and anti-aircraft defenses powered up. Every able-bodied human was prepared to fight for survival. The enemy, a race known only as the Zareth, had arrived without warning years ago, launching devastating strikes on humanity's outer colonies. Now they were here, on Earth's doorstep, and there was no retreat, no fallback position. This was it. The Zareth were a brutal warlike species, their technology vastly superior to humanity's in many ways. But humans had something the Zareth did not, an indomitable will to survive and a history of defying the odds. The Earth Defense Coalition, made up of soldiers, engineers, scientists, and every available resource, had been formed for this exact moment. Now as the Zareth fleet descended, the true test had come. "Enemy vessels in range," came a shout from the tactical officer, his voice sharp with tension. "Fire all batteries." Steele barked, gripping the railing as the ship's massive plasma cannons erupted in a barrage of fiery death toward the incoming alien armada. The first wave of Zareth ships buckled under the assault, their shields flickering and failing as human plasma rounds tore through them. But the Zareth were relentless, their sleek, obsidian-black vessels swarming toward Earth's fleet like predatory beasts. Explosions lit up the darkened sky, and for every Zareth ship that fell, more took its place. The Earth fleet, outnumbered and outgunned, fought with grim determination. On the ground, Major Sarah Reynolds led the 3rd Mechanized Infantry Division as they prepared for the inevitable ground assault. Her troops, equipped with powered exosuits and high-energy rifles, stood ready in the trenches just outside of New Berlin, one of Earth's last standing megacities. Overhead, anti-aircraft guns fired relentlessly at the Zareth dropships, but some broke through the defenses, landing in fiery crashes beyond the horizon. "Hold the line," Major Reynolds shouted over the comms, her voice amplified through the suits of her soldiers. "No retreat." As the first Zareth soldiers emerged from their dropships, a monstrous wave of biomechanical warriors, Reynolds' division opened fire. The air sizzled with energy blasts as human forces clashed with the invaders. The Zareth were formidable, their armored forms bristling with weapons and their hive-like coordination making them a near-perfect war machine. But the humans fought back with everything they had: bullets, plasma, rockets, and sheer determination. In orbit, the battle raged on. Colonel Steele's tactical displays were a blur of red icons, representing destroyed ships. The human fleet was dwindling rapidly, but they were giving the Zareth hell for every inch of space. "Bring us about. Target their command ship," Steele ordered, eyes locked on the largest of the alien vessels, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed everything else in the fleet. If they could take it down, they might cripple the Zareth chain of command. The Valor swung around, its engines flaring to life as it charged headlong into the enemy formation. The ship shook violently as Zareth fighters strafed its hull, but Steele ignored the damage reports. His focus was on one thing: the dreadnought. The ship's main railgun powered up, its hum reverberating through the entire vessel. "Fire!" Steele commanded. A lance of pure energy shot from the Valor, streaking across space and slamming into the dreadnought. For a moment it looked as though the alien behemoth would hold. But then, with a deafening crack, the Zareth command ship split in two, erupting in a blinding explosion. Cheers erupted on the Valor's bridge, but Steele knew the battle was far from over. On the ground, Major Reynolds and her troops were engaged in brutal, close-quarters combat. Zareth warriors swarmed over the defensive lines, and despite heavy losses, the human forces held. Reynolds herself, armed with a high-frequency blade and an energy shield, cut through the alien ranks, leading from the front. Her exosuit's servos whined as she slammed the blade into the chest of a Zareth commander, the alien's mechanical armor sparking as it crumpled. They just keep coming. One of her soldiers yelled as more Zareth dropships descended from the sky. We make our stand here, Reynolds replied, her voice hard with resolve. For Earth. The Zareth forces seemed endless, but so was the human resolve. Every inch of ground was paid for in blood, but they would not yield. This was their home, and they would fight for it to the last. The battle raged for days. The human fleet in orbit was nearly spent, and on the ground, cities burned. But as the dust settled and the last Zareth warships retreated into the void, one thing was clear. Humanity had survived. Barely, but they had survived. The cost had been staggering, with millions dead and Earth's cities in ruins, but the invaders had been driven back. Colonel Steele stood on the scorched earth, looking out over the smoking ruins of what had once been New Berlin. Major Reynolds limped over to him, her armor battered but her spirit unbroken. We held, she said simply. Steele nodded, the weight of the battle heavy on his shoulders. We did, but this war isn't over. No, Reynolds agreed, but we're still here. And as long as humanity stood, there was hope. Thank you for joining us on this epic journey of survival and courage in Operation Crimson Dawn. The battle for Earth's survival. If you enjoyed this thrilling tale of humanity's fight for survival, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned for more incredible stories of action, heroism, and adventure. Every click helps us bring you more amazing content.